All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name's Nicole, and welcome back to our English class. It's fantastic to see all your presence here today in our class. I hope you are all feeling ready to continue our very interesting discussion on sentence stress patterns in different contexts. Now, yesterday we kicked off this topic and we've already covered some really important ground, right? We explored on neutral declarative sentences, how stress usually falls on the last content word to convey a new piece of information. We also talk about emphatic speech, how we can shift stress to highlight specific words for emphasis, like when you really want to make a point or correct someone. And lastly, we also tap into questions, stress and intonation in questions where we covered how stress patterns change in different types of questions like yes or no questions versus WH questions, and how, of course, how intonation plays a big role there too. Okay, so that's what we have discussed so far on sentence stress pattern in different contexts. Now, what we're diving into today. Today, we're going to build on that foundation and delve into other fascinating stress patterns. We will look at how stress can change depending on the speaker's intention, the grammatical structure, or even just to maintain the flow of conversation. So, understanding these various patterns will give you an even more comprehensive picture of how natural English rhythm works and how you can use it to express yourself more clearly and, of course, effectively. Excuse me. So, yeah, get ready to fine tune your ears as we uncover more secrets of English pronunciation. Okay, let's immediately jump into the next sentence stress patterns, which is on repetition and contrast. So, repetition and clarification through shifting stress. Okay, now here stress moves to signal disambiguation. So, let's take a single simple question. Did you call me? So, 7 letters, 4 words. But the moment we say it aloud, it becomes a canvas for meaning, and meaning changes depending on the word we stress. Okay? Again, meaning changes depending on the word we stress. So this is a powerful tool in English. It allows us to repeat the same sentence and convey completely different ideas, different intentions, and even emotions just by shifting our voice, just by giving different emphasis in the sentence. So let's break it down. Let's have the first one. Did you call me? Again, did you call me? Here, your voice lands strongly on the word you. Okay, this stress puts focus on the person who might have made the call. So you are surprised or seeking confirmation about the subject. Excuse me. I'm sorry for that. Anyway, you are not asking whether someone called. You are clarifying who. Maybe you saw a missed call and someone else says it wasn't me. So you respond, wait, did you call me? So the sentence now becomes about identity basically. Okay? That's the first um that's the first message of the first sentence where we emphasize the word you. On to the second sentence, we emphasize here the word call. So, did you call me? Again, did you call me? Now the stress moves to the action. You are no longer focused on who or whom, but on what was done. Okay? Perhaps someone messaged you or showed up suddenly and you are checking whether they actually made a phone call. So you want to know, was it a call or something else? Okay? Did you call me? So this version, it emphasizes the verb which is about to happen. Sorry for that. Oh no, that's so good. Anyway, again, the second version, did you call me, where we emphasize the word call. It is it is focusing on the verb which is call. Call is a verb, right? It's a main verb. And with that, it is focusing on what is about to not what is about to happen, but what's happened. Okay? It's focusing on what has happened. Did you call me? Okay. And last version we have here, did you call me? So we give more emphasis on the word me. Now the shift here, with that the shift is on the receiver. You are questioning whether you were the intended target of the action. So maybe you overheard someone say, I called her earlier. And you ask, wait, did you call me? So it's about direction or destination, not whether someone called or who called, but who the call was for. Because, of course, that's what the sentence is trying to convey with the word me being emphasized. Okay, so why does this matter? Well, because this is how spoken English handles contrast as well as correction, even clarification. So it lets you emphasize what matters in that moment. It lets you fix a misunderstanding without changing the sentence, and it lets you adjust your meaning in real time through stress. Okay, so even though nothing about the structure or the words has changed, like it's totally the same words, same sentence, everything is the same. Each version becomes its own mini conversation. The rhythm stays similar, but the listener's attention gets pulled in a new direction each time. Like it gets you, how do you call that? It's the same sentence can be interpreted into many ways depending on how you emphasize a word in the sentence. Okay, so this is what makes English really flexible. It makes English subtle and expressive when spoken aloud. The same sentence becomes three different conversations thanks to the power of shifting stress, just like the examples that we have here on the screen. Did you call me? Did you call me? And did you call me? Okay? And of course, the more aware we become of this, the more clearly we can communicate, not just accurately, but intentionally. All right? Okay. So, again, this is on repetition and contrast, where the same sentence having the same words, exact same, you know, exact same words, exact same sentence can be interpreted into many ways depending on the how do you call that, depending on the shift or depending on the stressed word in the sentence. Okay, all right. As I said earlier, it is what makes English really flexible, but at the same time it also what makes English really complex, because again there are so many possibilities. Okay, all right. So that's on repetition and contrast. We have here thought groups, pausing, and intonation units. So this is how we shape spoken sentences. Now, when we write, punctuation helps guide the reader through the meaning. Like it tells, for example, commas tells us to pause, periods tells us to stop, and paragraphs tells us when a new idea begins. But when we speak, we don't see commas, we don't see periods. We create them ourselves with our voice, with our breath, and with our rhythm. So that's where thought groups come in. Okay. What's a thought group? Well, in fluent speech, we break long sentences into thought groups, which we consider as the natural chunks tied to rhythm and breathing. So a thought group is a natural unit of speech. Basically, it's a small package of meaning, often just a few words that fits together conceptually and rhythmically. So when we speak, we don't release a whole sentence at once. Instead, we break it up into these small idea units and pause briefly between them. For example, to better understand, because it's quite complicated. Okay, do we have an example here? Let me see. Yeah, this one. Let's start with a simple example first. Um, maybe okay. Let's have this one. I'll be sharing an experience. No, just listen to me how I do it. Um, After the movie, we went to a cafe and talked for hours. Again, after the movie, we went to a cafe and talked for hours. Now, each part of the sentence, it carries a distinct piece of the message. Each pause helps us understand what's going on and gives space to process the meaning. So without these breaks, everything gets jumbled. Like if I don't, if I don't pause, if I don't give that necessary space when I speak, it would sound like after the movie we went to a cafe and talked for hours. It would sound like that. Okay? That would be very difficult for your listener to understand you. After the movie, we went to a cafe and talked for hours. Again, after the movie, we went to a cafe and talked for hours. That would be very difficult, right? Because there's no proper pauses in between, so that the whole sentence can be grasped by your listener really properly. So if we don't put the necessary spaces in between the sentence, it would be hard to understand, no? Because there's no rhythm, there's no clarity in the sentence and and how you deliver your sentence. Okay? So, of course, thought groups are very important in a way that they organize spoken ideas for easier understanding. They reflect natural breathing. We pause where we could catch a breath. And then of course they also allow intonation to rise and fall smoothly. Okay? It helps us it helps us shape the mood and focus of the sentence, and most of all, they keep our speaking fluent and listener friendly. Okay, listener friendly in a way that our listener can easily understand what we're trying to say because we properly say it, we properly deliver our sentence with proper pauses and everything. Okay, so we don't speak faster by rushing one big breathless paragraph, like saying everything at once. No, we don't do that. We speak better when we pace ourselves, like marking the meaningful units and letting the voice do its work. Okay? So think of thought groups like musical phrases in a way that a good melody is divided into short, memorable phrases. So each one has a clear beginning, a natural end, and even there's flows into the next. So the space between them is not silence, it's part of the rhythm. Okay? It's just necessary to be there. And that's what we do in speech too. We structure our language not just with grammar, but with sound, with spacing, and even with motion, nonverbal communications. So, this is the foundation for everything that follows, like expressive intonation, contrastive stress, and natural flow. So, once we hear and feel thought groups, we are no longer reading English aloud. We're living in we are living it in real time. Okay? Let's look at another example to solidify our understanding about thought groups. Okay, here, this example shows how spoken English flows in rhythmic blocks of meaning, not in one continuous line. So let's unpack what's happening when we speak a sentence. Like here, when I was a child, I want to be a scientist or maybe a musician. Okay. Um, Again, when I was a child, I want to be a scientist or maybe a physician. So we don't say this all at once, okay? That's why for better guidance, I put a slanted line here in between the in between the phrases. Okay, just a simple guide into when should we put the proper pauses when we say this sentence. Okay, so that we don't say this all at once. We divide it into three thought groups or three phrases. These three moments of meaning, it is marked by a tiny pause and shaped by its own sound pattern. So each of these pauses, it does four important things. Four? Yeah, I think four. First, it gives the listener processing time so that here, each unit it delivers one idea. The pause lets the listener absorb it before moving on. So it's necessary. No, the pause is really necessary. Second, it allows for one clear pitch movement. Now, inside each group, our voice usually rises slightly toward the main stressed word. It falls or levels out. So that shape is called an intonation unit. All right? And third, it also highlights one word more strongly in a way that each group has a natural center of gravity, which is the syllable we emphasize most, or we call it nuclear stress, right? If you remember our discussion yesterday, nuclear stress is the word that has the strongest stress in the sentence. And how do you call that? Um, it signifies the whole message of the sentence. What is the message you're trying to convey? You can find it in the nuclear stress. Okay? Like, for example, um, here in the sentence, when I was a child as the word that is strongly stressed. For the first thought group, second thought group, I want to be a scientist. And lastly, or maybe a musician. So our I'm sorry. Our highlighted or emphasized words here on each thought group are child, scientist, and musician. Okay? So, with that in mind, um, this way it connects smoothly with reduced or linked words. What does that mean? Inside each thought group, okay, inside each thought group, there are three thought groups in total in the sentence that we have. Smaller function words often shrink or blend, or we call this connected speeches. We are going to tackle on this later, on our later or future sessions. Connected fast and connected speeches. Okay? There's a separate topic for this because, of course, though it might be simple, but it's very important that we understand that really deeply. Okay? Now, what is this fast and connected speech? It's like, it's, as I mentioned, it's shrinking or blending of words. Like, when I was a child, instead of saying that, we say, when I was a child. So we do not, we do not pronounce each word separately. There are times that some words really blended together, like when I or when I. Okay? When I is the proper way, not proper way, formal way, but in a conversational setting, there are times that connected speeches really happen. It's usually in the conversational English that this fast and connected speech happens. No, this informal way of delivering the sentence. So instead of saying when I, usually in fast and connected speech, we say when I. Okay? We connect the two words. We blend them together. Okay? So that's that. When I was a child, I wanted to be a scientist or maybe a musician. So even though we're saying a full sentence, we are not thinking word by word. We are thinking group by group, chunk by chunk. Okay? That's thought group. So this way of speaking, it is what gives English its rhythm, not just, regular beats, but grouped meaning with natural pauses, natural pitch and flow, intonation units basically. So when we feel these thought groups, we gain control over pacing, over clarity, and listener attention all at once. Okay? All right. Let's move on to the um next topic. All right. We have here sentence stress and grammar. So we are already here. Now, when we speak, we don't just follow grammar rules and throw on stress like decoration, right? We do not do that. There's proper way to do, to do sentence stress and grammar. So instead, our grammar here, our grammar choices, especially around auxiliaries, negatives, contrast, structures, and many more, it actually shape which word we stress and why. Okay? That is on, um, where are we? Let me- That is on sentence stress and grammar. So sentence stress interacts dynamically with tense, with modality, and even syntax. Okay? Now let's walk through each section of this slide and unpack how sound and structure dance together. Okay? First, we have auxiliaries in focus. So we stress for emphasis or correction. Take the sentence that we have here. She has seen it. Again, she has seen it. Normally, we wouldn't stress has because again, it's an auxiliary verb, it's a function word. And remember our rule number 2 when it comes to sentence stress, function words are usually unstressed. Okay? Not all the time, but usually so. This is an example of function word that is stressed. Okay? So she has seen it. It's an auxiliary verb. It is grammatically important, of course, but usually spoken lightly. Okay? But look at this moment in context. Maybe someone said, she hasn't seen it, and now we're correcting them. Suddenly has become the star of the show. She has seen it. So the grammar gives us the tool, which is the has or the word has, but intonation gives it meaning. So stress turns a plain sentence into a corrections, a surprise, or even a protest. Okay? Now try another one we have here. So basically on the first sentence, it is a correction or emphasis. For the second sentence, it will be contrast or surprise. So the sentence is, he does love chocolate. Again, he does love chocolate. So we are not just saying he likes it, we are adding energy, emotion. Maybe someone said he didn't, or maybe his behavior didn't seem like he did. So we use does to insist. Okay, we stress on the auxiliary, which says that this matters right now. This particular thing matters right now. So grammar opens the door, voices makes the moment. Okay? That's on this particular sentence. It's contrast or surprise. That's for auxiliaries in focus. Second, we have negatives get stressed or negatives always get noticed. Look at the example sentences we have here. First, she is not coming. Again, she is not coming. And the second one, you can't do that. Again, you can't do that. So in English, negative almost always attracts stress. Why? Because they flip the meaning. They introduce a contrast between what could happen and what won't. So we don't say she's not coming, we say she's not coming. Okay? Focus or emphasis on the word not. All right? Okay, so the negative word is what changes the entire meaning. So it becomes the natural anchor for stress. And of course, grammatically, it tends to sit in the middle of the clause, right in position for our voice to land on it. Okay, this pattern is not decorative, it is structural. So negative auxiliaries demand attention and rhythm gives it to them. Okay, a third one, and the last one, I guess, is contrastive pairs. So we stress as meaning clarifier. So let's try these sentences. He's a teacher, not a preacher. She wrote the letter, not read it. Here, grammar gives us two balanced ideas. There's two nouns or two verbs. But stress tells us which idea is being affirmed and which one is being rejected. So our voice rises and falls in a deliberate way. Let's take the first example. He's a teacher, not a preacher. She wrote the letter, not read it. This structure, it is grammatically contrast, but it requires vocal contrast to land emotionally and cognitively. So if both halves are said with the same tone and energy, the correction disappears. The listener misses the point. So stress is what signals this is not that. Okay? So what do we learn here? Grammar creates the frame, but stress animates it. Grammar creates the structure, but stress put rhythm in it. Okay? It tells the listener what has changed. It tells the listener what is being corrected or clarified, as well as what matters most in this moment. So even simple sentences becomes expressive and reactive when we know how grammar changes the street landscape. Okay? This is speech, not just a structure, but as a strategy. All right? Okay, let's move on. Another context we have here, sentence stress in acting in drama. Now, this is just very simple. I just included this, for a context on how the sentence stress works in acting and drama. So we've seen how stress can guide rhythm, right? How it can mark importance and clarify meaning. But in drama and acting, stress is elevated into an art form. It becomes the actor's tool for shaping character, emotion, and motivation. So let's take this simple sentence. You did this. It has only three words, right? Grammatically, it's clear, but in spoken English, especially in dramatic performance, each word holds the potential for emotional nuance, depending on which one we choose to stress. Okay, let's explore the three versions highlighted on the slide and see how shifting that stress creates entirely the different emotional interpretations. Okay, first, this is accusatory. You did this. Sorry for that. Again, you did this. So the stress lands on the word you. Here, the voice is accusatory or shocked, not at the action itself, but who did that. So maybe it was unexpected. Maybe it was disappointing. Okay. The tone here, of course, it's disbelief, it's suspicion, it's betrayal, interpretation. Of all people, it was you who did this. No, we can interpret it as like that. So this version draws the listener into a confrontation, and the emphasis is on identity. Okay? The second is surprised. You did this. Again, you did this. So we stress here, the stress moves to did. Sorry for that. My nose feels stuffy for a reason. But anyway, let's continue. So the stress moves to the word did, which is, of course, the verb. Now, it's not about who, but about whether the action really happened. So this signals surprise or confusion about whether something was done at all. Okay? Our tone here, it should be, um, how do you call that? It should be, I guess, astonishment in a way and incredulity. And when we try to really dissect the second sentence, you did this, we can say you actually went through with it. You did this, something like that, though. Okay, here we're challenging the reality of the action. Okay, focus on the action. Now, on the third, you did this. Again, you did this. Stress lands on the word this, the object. Now we believe the person act judgment, disdain, sarcasm, all those tone are included here where you are all welcome. Now, our interpretation of this sentence, you did this, which is not that's suicidal, I don't know. But yeah, you did this. Um, how we can interpret this is by saying, out of all the choices, this is what you did. You did this, something like that. Okay, the emotional weight lands on the action's outcome. It is absurdity, it is unexpectedness, it is wrongness. So what's happening here, we are seeing the beauty of prosody. Now that's another that's another that's another thing that we are going to really tap on maybe in the future sessions, because prosody is a quite um how do you call this, prosody is quite a long topic, no? It Yeah, but it's a long topic, it's a complicated word in a way, but though it might seem as simple for others, but this is foundational. So it's very important that we allocate not just one meeting, if possible at least one meeting for the topic on prosody, so that we can really understand better without me overwhelming you. Okay, so again, here we are seeing the beauty of prosody, the rhythm, the stress, and intonation of speech. Now, in acting, prosody is not just a pronunciation tool, it's a lens for character psychology. It conveys attention, it conveys subtext, conflict, and even relationship dynamics. And it all lives inside the voice, no? Even outside the stage, this is how human communication works. In daily life, we shift stress to challenge others, to clarify misunderstanding, to reveal our emotional stance. So, just to create sarcasm, to create humor, affection, and even annoyance. Okay? All right. So, this slide, let me go back. It it doesn't just teach us pronunciation. For this context, it teaches how language becomes expressive performance. Whether we are on stage or in conversation, each time we choose which word to stress, we're choosing how we want to be understood. Okay, again, each time we choose which word to stress, we are choosing how we want to be understood. Okay, all right. Okay, let's move on. Here, sentence stress and listening comprehension. We are also going to talk about that when it comes to this sentence stress and listening comprehension. Let me see for a moment. Let me just, check if my screen is showing exactly in your end. If we are on the same screen. Okay. Let me just go for, let me just, for a moment. Okay. Sentence stress and listening comprehension. Now, listening comprehension is one of the four macro skills in English. Now, what are these macro skills? We have reading, listening, writing, and speaking. Okay, those are, how do you call this? Those are the macro skills in English. Those are basically the foundational skills in English so that you can communicate properly in English. We need to be able to read, as well as we need to be able to listen properly, and then write, and of course speak. Okay, all right. Now, here it says here in the slide, learners often miss meaning when they focus too much on every syllable. Training them to catch stress points improve pronunciation. So, yes, we've just completed a very thorough practice on producing sentence stress effectively in our own speech, right? Let's shift our focus slightly to another equally crucial aspect of sentence stress, which is its role in listening comprehension. So here I've mentioned already what the slide highlights. Learners often miss meaning when they focus too much on every syllable. This is a common challenge, isn't it? When we try to understand every single sound, we can sometimes miss the forest for the tree for the trees, okay? However, the good news is that training them to catch stress points improves comprehension, okay? This means that by actively listening for those stressed words, the ones that are longer, louder, or higher in pitch, you can actually enhance your understanding of what is being said, even if you don't catch every single word. Stressed words are the signposts, basically, of meaning in a sentence. They guide you to the most important information. So here's a pro tip, as the slide says. Practice listening for what's said strongly and what gets swallowed. So, what does get swallowed mean? It refers to those unstressed words, usually function words, right? The function words like articles, prepositions, or auxiliary verbs that are, often reduced or pronounced very quickly in natural fast speech. So, native speakers don't emphasize them because they don't carry the main information. So, by focusing your listening energy on those strong words, you'll find it much easier to extract the core message and follow the conversations more effectively. Okay? So this really connects back to everything that we did today. When we produce proper stress, we help our listeners. And when we listen for proper stress, we help also ourselves to understand better. Okay? It's just, a two-way street that significantly boosts all over communication, or the overall, I'm sorry, overall communication. Okay? All right, that's that. So that's sentence stress and listening comprehension. All right. I think okay. So that is the we're nearing the end, everyone, because it says here final takeaways. But just to really get the idea um of the topics that we've already discussed about sentence stress, let's start with the first slide on sentence stress, of course, which is on its name, sentence stress. So far, no, just a quick, not, I don't know if it's quick, but yeah, just a recap of everything that we have included in our discussion on sentence stress. For particularly, we started with, that's not how we started. We started on rule number one. Let me just check the rule number one. Yeah, this one. Okay, so we started with rule number one, which is here content words are usually stressed. What are these content words? We have nouns, main verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and even question words. So these words carry the core meaning of the sentence. Okay, so number two, we continue with number two, or not, or rule number two, I mean, function words are usually unstressed. Okay, so these function words, they act as grammatical glue and are often weakened or reduced in speech. What are these function words? It includes articles, auxiliary verbs, pronouns, prepositions, conjunction determiners, and even modal verbs. Okay, all right. Those are function words, usually unstressed, but not all the time. Next, on rule number three, stress happens in regular beats. Again, stress happens in regular beats, meaning that English is a stress timed language. Okay? And then, of course, we also discuss how this affects fluency. And we started with primary sentence stress, and we get the idea. We discussed on the idea of nuclear stress, where here every sentence has one most important word, the word that carries the primary sentence stress, and that's what we call
That word is what we call nuclear stress, okay? And then after that, we immediately move on to sentence stress patterns in different contexts, okay? All right. Well, first pattern, stress pattern for in different contexts. First context, I mean, is neutral declarative sentences. Next to that is emphatic speech. Next to that is questions. And then repetition in contrast. And yeah, we talked about thought groups. Yeah, and sentence stress and grammar. Sentence stress in action and drama. And of course, sentence stress and listening comprehension. Okay? All right. So we've tackled all those topics for how many days? I guess 3 days or 3 sessions, 3 to 4 sessions, including today. Okay? So that's it. We've tackled for a moment. So we really tackled a lot of topics under sentence stress, and I think this is the last, since we are covering the part of stress in, how do you call that, in English stress. We started with word stress, right? If you remember it correctly, we started with word stress, and then we slowly build up the foundation of word stress to eventually go for the topic on sentence stress. Okay, so I did multiple sessions for this topic alone, because again, I don't really want you to, how do you call that? I don't really want you to be, sorry. I don't really want you to be overwhelmed with all these topics, because there are times that it's really difficult to grasp the concept. So it's very important that we put more time into grasping that concept. Okay? So that's that. Now, let's have these final takeaways that we have for the whole topic on sentence stress. Okay? So, final takeaways, we have six final takeaways that will eventually cover everything. First, we have don't stress every word. English does not work that way. Okay? Don't stress every word, everyone. Don't stress every word. English doesn't work that way, because if you stress every word in the sentence, it would look like you're not stressing anything at all, because they are all on the same level of, how do you call that? They're all on the same level of pronunciation. It sounds monotonous. No matter how you amplify your voice, if all words sounds the same, if all words is stressed, it would sound monotonous. It would sound robotic, because there's no rhythm in it. Okay? This is arguably the most liberating and fundamental concept in English pronunciation. Because unlike some languages, which might give relatively equal weight to each syllable or word, English is a stress timed language, right? We've already talked about that. So this means it relies on a consistent rhythm created by stressed syllables occurring at a roughly regular intervals. So that is with the unstressed syllables being compressed in between. So if you try to give equal emphasis to every single word, your speech won't sound natural at all. It will come across as monotonous, as I mentioned. It will come across stiff and even robotic. So that's that. That's the, how do you call that? That's the result of that. And more importantly, it creates a cognitive burden for your listener, which makes it much harder for them to follow your ideas. Because imagine trying to listen to a song where every single musical note is played at the exact same loud volume. It would lose all its melody, right? It would lose its rhythm and its emotional impact. Similarly, in spoken English, the contrast between stressed and unstressed words is what creates the natural flow and highlights the meaning. So, consciously, it allows some words to relax and be less prominent, No, that is just as strategic as knowing which ones to emphasize. Okay? All right, that's the first takeaway. Okay, let me just check for a moment. So that's our first takeaway for the whole discussion. No, for three or four sessions, I guess. Second takeaway: content is king. Give life to nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Now, this principle is the cornerstone of effective spoken communication in English. We saw this in our very first activity, content words. Okay? Content words, I'm sorry. So, content words are the heavy lifters, the information barriers of any sentence. Nouns are our who and what, like team, report. Verbs tells us what happened or what to do, like submitted, scheduled, clarify. Adjectives, on the other hand, it provides crucial descriptions like final, accurate, and adverbs detail how, when, or where, like successfully, yesterday. Now, those are adverbs. These are the words that convey the essential new information, the core data in your message. By giving life to them, making them longer in duration, slightly louder in volume, or higher in vocal pitch, you instinctively guide the listener or your listener to the most vital parts of your message. Okay? It's like putting the important words in bold when you are writing, but you're doing it with your voice. Okay? That's the second takeaway. Third, let's function words glide. No, let function words glide. So they are the grammar, not the drama. So this is the perfect complement to the content is king idea. Function words are those smaller, often less stressed words that primarily serve a grammatical purpose. So think about common ones like articles, and the. Those are three articles. There's also prepositions in, on, at, of, with, for. Okay. There's also conjunctions and, but, or, as well as auxiliary verbs. Is, are, has, have, do, will. No, those terms. Okay. Okay, indispensable. They typically don't introduce new meaning. In the rapid flow of natural conversation, these words are frequently reduced, shortened, and pronounced very quickly. That's fast and connected speeches. They glide past almost unnoticed, or they get swallowed, as we discussed regarding listening comprehension, which is a common example, is and often sounding like N. Okay, fish and chips, something like that. Okay, they provided necessary, how do you call that? The necessary structure and the grammatical glue that binds content words together, but they are not where the primary emphasis or drama of your message resides. Learning to naturally reduce these works not only makes your own speech sound more authentic, but it also frees up your mental energy to focus on stressing the actual content words, which is where the real meaning is, right? Okay. That's on the third takeaway. Okay, third? Yeah, third. Let's move on to the fourth. Chunk your sentences, think in thought groups. So when native English speakers communicate, they don't simply string words together in an unbroken stream. Instead, they naturally break their sentences into smaller, manageable units of meaning known as thought groups or chunks. Okay, we've talked about that. Each of these chunks typically conveys a single how do you call that, single complete idea or distinct piece of information, and it usually contains one primary stressed word that carries the most importance within that particular group. For example, in the sentence, earlier this week, our team completed the final version of the budget proposal and forwarded it to senior management for review. Now each slash, no, I will be putting slashes, in my mind. Each of these slash indicates a natural pause for a thought group. by consciously thinking in these cheese chunks. Okay? Okay. You can manage your breath more effectively. You can insert natural pauses and deliver your message in digestible, easy to follow segments from your for your listener. It's essentially organizing your ideas into clear, bite-sized phrases. Okay. All right. That's that. No, it makes your spoken communication far more coherent and easier for one to comprehend. Okay. That's the fourth takeaway. All right. Let's move on to the fifth for a moment. Okay. Let's move on to the fifth. Stress shapes meaning. Use it with intention. Use it with use it with intention, like musical notes. So this profound takeaway directly builds on our stress substitution, where we manipulated the stress within a single sentence. Okay. Remember how emphasizing the word we and we need to increase production meant us, not others, or how stressing production highlighted the output or goal. Okay? This demonstrates that sentence stress is far more than just a pronunciation rule. It's a powerful communicative tool, just like a skilled musician employs different notes, different rhythms, and dynamics to evoke specific emotions and meanings in a piece of music. So you as a speaker can intentionally use stress to highlight what is most important to you. No, to clarify a specific point, to create contrast, or even um to express a subtle emotion like surprise or a urgency. It gives you incredible control over the nuanced message that you want to send. Okay, it is often without needing to add extra words. It allows you to answer unspoken questions or address underlying assumptions in a conversation. Okay, all right, that's our fifth takeaway. Let's move on to the last takeaway, sixth and last takeaway. Our last takeaway is drill with rhythm. Clap, tap, even wrap your sentences. Okay, that's quite new, right? That's how you call that. Um, that's unusual, but I guess they said this, but to actually help us really properly learn these sentence stressing. Okay, for a moment. So that's that for the sixth final takeaway. Here in drill with rhythm. Clap, tap, even wrap your sentences. Okay, that's a way to really properly deliver your message or your sentence, the sentence itself to your listener. Okay, so this point is your call to action, basically your invitation to make the abstract concept of sentence stress a tangible as well as a physical experience. So sentence stress is fundamentally about rhythm, right? If you remember, this is about the inherent beat and melody of the English language. To truly internalize this, to move it from something you think about to something you just do, you need to feel it physically, not just intellectually understand it. Okay? You can think about how children learn. They don't just memorize rules, right? They engage their bodies, they sing, they clap, they move. So we as language teachers, we can tap into the same powerful how do you call this? Kinesthetic learning style. When you engage your body with language, you're not just activating your auditory and cognitive processing, you are building new neural pathways that connect the sound of English with a physical sensation of rhythm. This helps to break old ingrained pronunciation habits and build new, more accurate ones, making the correct stress patterns become almost automatic. Okay? All right. So how can you drill with rhythm? Again, here is mentioned clapping or tapping. Sorry for that. First is clapping or tapping. So as you can say a sentence as you say a sentence out loud, try clapping or tapping your desk precisely on the stressed syllables. For instance, if you're practicing we need to increase production, you would clap or tap on we need an increase and production as also. So there's four claps in total. You will notice how some syllables get stronger, more definitely tap while more definite tap, while others might get a lighter, quicker touch or no tap at all. So this simple act makes you physically aware of the natural rhythm. Okay? Next is marching or walking. Try walking or marching in place. You know, please let's try to as much as possible synchronizing our footfalls with the stress syllables. This larger physical movement can really help you feel the stress timed nature of English, where the important how do you call it, important words are the ones that get a beat. Okay. All right. And what other thing we have here? Okay. Even wrapping your sentences. Yes, seriously, this might sound a bit unconventional, but it's remarkably effective. Hip hop and rap often rely on strong, clear rhythmic beats that align beautifully with the natural stress patterns of English. Okay, by wrapping sentences, you are forced to emphasize the strong beats, which naturally correspond to the stressed words. So this playful approach removes the pressure and allows you to experiment with the rhythm. Okay, all right, that's that. So this goodness. So how where are we again? We are on the wrapping part, right? So by wrapping sentences, you are forced to emphasize the strong beats. Again, we naturally correspond to the stressed words. So this playful approach removes the pressure and allows you to experiment with the rhythm in a creative way, often landing to surprising breakthroughs and naturalness. Okay. This kinesthetic physical approach helps you to not only hear the natural rhythm of English, but also to actually feel it in your body. So this makes it so much more natural for you to produce that crucial stress time pattern when you speak spontaneously. Without having to consciously think about every single word, it's a playful yet remarkably effective method to embed this vital rhythm into your muscle memory. Okay? Which ultimately lead to more natural, confident, and highly intelligible communication. So the goal is for these stress patterns to become second nature. So you can focus on your message, not just the how do you call that? Not just the this one, right? Not just where are we again? I was lost for a moment. So again, this makes it so much natural for you to produce um that crucial, crucial stress timed pattern when you speak spontaneously without really having to think about each every word consciously. No, it's a it's a way to it's an effective way to embed this vital rhythm into our memory, into our brains, ultimately because it will help ultimately for us to be more confident when we speak because it's already part of our system, right? Again, the goal is for these stress patterns to become second nature so you can focus on your message, not just the mechanics of your pronunciation. So, the way to that is, of course, consistent rhythmic drilling builds the automaticity that distinguishes hesitant speech from fluent confident delivery. So don't be shy. Just try it out. Consistent practice is really the key into making it more natural for you to use these things in English. Ne? So to make it more natural for you so that it will be part of your system already that you can use it later because it's part of your system so you can easily get it from your system and use it in real life. Okay? That's the advantage of that when it comes to consistent practice. Now, talking about consistent practice, talking about practice, for tomorrow's session, that's the last day of the week, we're going to end the week with a series of practice drills. Okay? That's what we're going for tomorrow. We are going to apply what we've learned in the past couple days about word stress and sentence stress, and then we're going to, what do you call that? We're going to do some exercises to really grasp the progress that you're making so far when it comes to English learning. Okay? That's what we're going to do for tomorrow. So I guess that's it. Let me see the next slide. Yeah, I guess that's it, everyone. So for a moment. For a moment. Where am I? Okay. So yeah, these are our final takeaways and of course our sentence stress. All right. That brings us to the end of our, how do you call that? That brings us to the end of our topic on word stress as well as sentence stress, everyone. This has been like a quite long discussion on those two topics. We weren't able to really um discuss all of these in just two sessions because again, as I've mentioned, as I've mentioned before we started delving into the topic, that I will be using, how do they call that, I will be having more than two sessions when it comes to this topic, because although it is quite simple, but it is really a complicated stuff, no, and it is a foundational topic into our into your system, into learning English. It's a foundational topic, so that is very important to really be gonna do, so that it's really important to grasp this concept properly, so that it will be part of your system and you can really understand it well. Okay. Now, again, the key here now is continued practice so that it will be really completed and be part of your system. Try to listen for sentence stress whenever you hear English spoken. English spoken in movies, in podcasts, or conversations. And when you speak, try to be mindful of where you place your emphasis to ensure that your meaning is always crystal clear. Okay? The more you practice, again, the more natural and intuitive it will become to you. So, that's it, I guess. Thank you so much for your active presence here, everyone, and your wonderful effort in listening for today's discussion. I hope this session has given you valuable insights and practical tools to improve your spoken English pronunciation. Keep practicing again, and I'm sure you'll see amazing progress. That's it for today. Have a great rest of the night. Good night.